To get back to the story, we can say that the predicament of modernity is that we have lost sight of the fact that everything in existence is not just vested with a meaning which we attribute to it, but is significant as a signpost. Now, what is hopeful, and what I suppose justifies the Maturidi expectation here, is that they are not pure materialists and pure atheists. That's an extremely unusual position. Even if they may say, I don't believe in God, they may say, well, I have a spiritual dimension and I believe that there is something beyond the physical world. That's normal, because pure atheism is so alien to the human creature. Such a denial of what we ourselves intuit. But what the modern world does still have is an attraction to beauty. Because, if you like, as Plato remarked, beauty is the splendor of the truth. Where there is beauty, there is truth. We may not be able to articulate it, but it's there. This is why Islamic civilization has always, when it has been healthy, inevitably produced beauty. Truth produces beauty. It can't help but do so. And the primordial symbols of our religion are all expressions of pure beauty. The Kaaba, beautiful. So beautiful that the sunnah is to look at it when you're in the haram rather than to look down in prayer. Qubbat al-Sakhra, the first Muslim building, if you like, is superbly beautiful. It was built in the time of the Sahaba. People like Ubadah ibn al-Samit, Shaddad bin Aus, and other great saints from the Sahaba, buried within 100 yards of the Dome of the Rock, clearly knew what they were doing. The beautiful soul, the soul that is illuminated by truth, produces beauty. It cannot produce ugliness. And the greatest beauty in the early days of Islam was the face of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you look at the Shama'il of at-Tirmidhi and any of the early works that indicate how one man was able to transform the most fractious, abrasive, difficult, divided people on the planet, you will see that people used to love looking at him. So many descriptions of his face. And why did the girls of Banu Najjar sing when he arrived with Abu Bakr on the Hijr, Tala al-Badru alayna, best known song in the Ummah? It's because everybody compared him to the full moon, stock Arabian image for great physical beauty. And there are hadith which indicate how the Sahaba would just look and look and look on the prophetic beauty. They could not tire of it. So, yeah, we can say with Plato, beauty is the splendor of the truth, and the modern world, insofar as it still recognizes beauty, is not completely lost to us, and is still a context in which we can have some authentic, responsive existence. And the corollary of this is that, however apparently fine the practices of an individual Muslim, or his or her community, or nation, or city, where beauty is not being produced, we can say that there is something radically wrong. That where a Muslim is getting up for tahajjud and fasting 4 months in a year, but his house is ugly and garish, with tacky, overwrought furniture, there's something wrong. There is an imbalance, because the Muslim soul has to be at ease with its environment. That is how Muslims have always been. And if you go to the most tastefully decorated houses in the West, you'll often see that some of the most precious artifacts that people have spent millions on are Islamic artifacts. Ceramics from Persia, mosque lights from Egypt, carpets, the world's most beautiful carpets almost invariably come from the Islamic world. They have those artifacts because they still have this fitri perception of what is beautiful and harmonious and serene. We don't have those artifacts. We can spend a lot on decorating our houses, usually too much. But beauty, well, somehow we've lost it. The basira somehow has passed us by. So, the modern world, شغلتنا الأدلة عن المدلول, that the signposts have distracted us away from what they are pointing to. That the modern world sees beauty and appreciates beauty and loves beauty because of some vaguely apprehended sense that here is al-haq. But there is no moral context and there's no theological context, so often the appreciation of beauty is abusive. For instance, the city of Fort Lauderdale, built in a beautiful place, nature surrounds us with all of its evocative splendor, speaking of al-haq. The sea is beautiful. And yet, people can't say al-haq. They've forgotten what it means, although their souls are telling them this is true. They like to forget their worries by sitting and looking out at sea, and they don't know why, but they feel at ease when they do so. The obsessive appreciation of the human body, particular characteristic of the modern world, is, we might say, despite its complete absence of a moral context and the human tragedies that flow from the lack of that morality, nonetheless rooted in an authentic instinct, which is to perceive that the most beautiful thing in Allah's creation is humanity. So in a sense, despite the baseness and the pornographic regard of the human body, nonetheless the underlying instinct, if you pare away all of the layers of distraction and sin and selfishness and self-regard, at the root of that there is the fitrah. Because Bani Adam has been created in the surah. Allah created Adam ala suratihi. And that's no little thing. This is part of the khilafah. So the fitrah is still operative, but the context has been lost. People are so dazzled by the beauty of the signposts that they spend their entire lives hanging around the signposts and adoring and embracing and caressing the signposts, but without being able to open their eyes to see where those signposts are pointing towards. But at least they are at the signposts, and that's a good point of departure. This is what I refer to as the third fall. The fact that we are out of the garden that presumably Florida 300 years ago was a kind of Edenic possibility, inhabited by peoples who certainly knew Tawheed, the Great Spirit. Native Americans, the Seminoles who lived around here, knew of the One, although their original Risala, whatever it might have been, clearly had become distorted, but nonetheless they knew it and they revered the natural order. They perceived Haqq in the Khalq. That's been replaced by a very, very degraded, mechanized vision of the human condition.